So before you can start your game, you need to know how to deploy. In my Warhammer 40,000 Beginners series, I'll teach you the very basics of how to play 40k. You've gathered your army, you've painted your minis, you're ready to go. So in this video, I'm going to go over the very basics of the deployment phase. So inside your Pariah Nexus deck, you will have a card like this, okay, a little booklet. This goes over everything you need to know about how to set up, how to start the game for a Pariah Nexus game. Okay, so what we need to do is we'll just separate out our two decks, our defender deck and our attacker deck. Okay, we'll place them down. We'll choose ourselves a primary mission and we'll choose ourselves a mission rule. Okay, apologies for the lighting in here. So it doesn't matter what those are today. We've got linchpin and prepared positions. It doesn't matter. We'll set out our terrain. Okay, this is UKTC terrain, but it doesn't matter on that. Okay, and we'll put out our objective markers. Okay, so these are set up in a set format. Okay, the objective markers will be shown on here. So and you can also see your deployment. Okay, so the key bit here is the 12 inches. Okay, this is the Dawn of War deployment, so 12 inches. Okay, so what we need to know is we need to measure 12 inches. Okay, so that's where our tape measure comes in. You can use the laser pen and measure 12 inches along, same for this side. Okay, 12 inches along there, and technically it's marked attacker and defender, but I mean it doesn't really matter for most of them because they're mirrored anyway. Okay, so what you would do next is we'll follow along with the card. Okay, so it starts off, you're gonna muster the army. So you've got your armies, you built your list. Like I said, you've got your points, you're playing 1,000, 2,000, whatever. Okay, you're gonna determine the mission, which we've done. You read the missions, make sure you understand, place your objective markers, create your battlefield, which we've done, then determine attacker and defender. So we roll off for this. So Chaos Space Marine player gets a 6 and Blood Angels player gets a 3. So whoever wins the roll off gets to choose whether they are the attacker or the defender. Okay, there are tactical reasons for going first and second, but we're not going to get into this at the moment. All we need to know is whoever chooses to be the defender. If you choose to be the attacker or defender, the defender deploys their first unit, and it just means that they get the card deck. Okay, so in this case, the Chaos Space Marines are going to go first, deploy first, so they are the defender, so they'll get the defender deck, and then the Blood Angels will be automatically the attacker. Okay, so defender, attacker. So like I say, we've got our deployment out here. Okay, so then all that's going to happen is we are going to so we hand out secondary missions. Okay, you can select at this point to go either tactical or fixed. Okay, again, there's different reasons for choosing both. I always go tactical because it makes the game more enjoyable and also gives you more flexibility if you've got a well-rounded army. So the way it works is you can either, so if you look at your deck, okay, some of them have got these bits here. Okay, so some of them has changed. I can't remember which mission it is. The most up-to-date ones are on the Warhammer community website. Okay, so you can choose 2 of these. Let's say you're going to go establish locus, engage on all fronts. That means every mission, every turn, every command phase, you'll be trying to achieve these same 2 missions. Okay, so whereas if you choose tactical, you're going to draw 2 of these at random every command phase. Okay, so what you do is officially you place 2 down, either they're going to be 2 fixed, or if you're going to go tactical, you can place down 2 tactical missions, okay? And then when your opponent declares theirs, you turn yours over and declare yours. So if it's fixed, you'll see the fixed markings and they're the missions. If not, you can just pick them up and shuffle them back in. So you're going to shuffle your deck, make sure it's fair, blah, blah, blah. So that's done. So we both go in tactical, let's just assume. So next, what we are going to do is we are going to declare our battle formation. So before we can even start to deploy, there's a few things we have to say. So generally what you'll do is you will go through your army with your opponent. So you'll say this unit can do, so this unit can do so and so and so. So this is the stat line. And then your opponent will say this unit can do this, blah, blah, blah. So you just give your opponent a little bit of a heads up of what your army can do. That's not officially rules, it's just good gamesmanship. The declare battle formations is you will declare whether you've got any scouts, any deep strike, any tactical reserves, any reserves, and also any infiltrators, okay, or what's in transports, okay? So let's just assume that we have nothing in tactical reserve, we have no scouts, and we have no infiltrators, and nothing in transport, just for simplicity, okay? So Chaos Space Marine's defender, so they are going to deploy first. So on this side, Chaos Space Marine player is going to put down their first unit. So they're going to put down the Legionnaires in this building, no problem. It's within 12, so that is fine. Then it goes on to the Blood Angels player, who will put in their infiltrate, they are called infiltrators, but that's just the unit name there. This unit into here. Chaos Space Marine player will then put their next unit down, and now they have no more units. So they have finished their deployment. So Chaos Space Marine player has finished their deployment, they have no more units. So what that means is now Blood Angels player will just go and deploy all their units, okay? So they're going to deploy the Calidus here, and Blood Angels player is going to deploy their Assault Marines like this, okay? So it's as simple as that. And then once you've done that, once you've deployed, you are going to determine who takes the first turn. So again, you roll the dice. Blood Angels player gets a 1, Chaos Space Marine player gets a 3. The difference with this roll is whoever gets highest has to go first. So in this case, Chaos Space Marine player has to go first, has no choice. Again, advantages, disadvantages depending on your army, the mission, etc., etc., whether it's better to go first, second. But if you roll that and you get higher, you have no choice, okay? So so that's the simple way, okay? There's a few other little bits that you need to know as well, okay? So some people have pre-battle rules, so I don't know, they can move units around, they can pick units up and put them back into reserves, things like that. It will specify specifically on their army rules, their detachment rules, or their unit abilities, okay? So that's dependent from army to army and unit to unit, okay? So generally though, there are 3 things you need to know. 1 is about transports, 2 is the scout ability, and 3 is the infiltrate ability, okay? And then also we'll go on to tactical reserves. So scouts is very simple. So after we roll off the dice, okay, Chaos Space Marine player is going first. So what that means is Chaos Space Marine player, if they've got any scout moves, they can use them first, and then the person who lost, who's going second, who scored lowest in the dice roll off, will then move theirs after. So these accursed cultists can scout 6 inches, so they could move all the way up 6 inches, okay? So before the game starts, they just get an extra 6-inch move before the game starts, and then you start the game. So that is scouts, okay? Infiltrate, so infiltrators. So if we just put the scouts back, so anything with the ability to infiltrate, what they can do, okay? So we're going to take this Calidus. This Calidus has got infiltrate on her abilities. What she can do is she can move anywhere on the board outside, so she doesn't have to be in the deployment zone as long as it is not in the enemy's deployment zone and outside of 9. So if that's the deployment zone, the edge of deployment, she can deploy up to there if she wants to. So all the way along the board, as long as it's away from 9 from the opposing deployment zone or any other units, then that is fine. So some units could infiltrate here, and then they would have to be 9 away from there. So say the Chaos Space Marine player now has some infiltrators, they would also have to be 9 away from the Calidus, okay? So infiltrates, scouts, nice and simple, okay? The other one is transports. This goes back to the declare battle formation step. So if you have a transport, let's say for example we've got this Rhino, okay? So I would say this squad of Legionnaires, instead of being on the battlefield, they are going to be embarked in this transport. So that just means they start inside here. So you put them off the table so we know they are in the game, they're involved in the game, they're actually there. And generally what I do is I'll put the unit on top of the transport so I know where it is, deploy the transport, and then later on in the game, in the movement phase, we'll get into that, the unit can disembark and will come out, okay? So that's a transport, okay? There's also one interaction where you can put scouts into transport and then the transport can scout, but again, that's complicating things, okay? Transports, scouts and infiltrates will all be in the abilities on the data card for each unit. So now we get to something which is slightly more tricky to get your head around it. Once you get your head around it, it's pretty easy. This is strategic reserves, okay? So up to half of your army, 50%, your points, can go into strategic reserves. This means they will start the game off the board. You won't deploy them, okay? They're not in a transport, they're just off, okay? Off the board. So you can have, there are 2 types of strategic reserve. One is deep strike and one is reserves, okay? I don't know why Games Workshop decided to call it strategic reserves and reserves, but strategic reserves, there are 2 types. You can have deep strike and you can have reserves, okay? Deep strike, when they come into the game, they can come in anywhere on the board, okay? Imagine like a teleport, imagine like Terminators teleporting in from a spaceship, okay? Reserves will come on from board edges, okay? They have to come on within 6 inches of a board edge, okay? In Pariah Nexus, generally, you can only come on from turn 2 onwards, okay? I think they've also changed that in the general rules that you can only come on in turn 2 onwards unless otherwise stated, okay? So some abilities, so for example, Chaos Space Marines have the Falgor Beastman, which can come on a turn. It says treat the turn as a turn earlier, so they can basically come in first turn, okay? So reserves, you can have up to 25% of your army in reserves, but up to 50% can be in deep strike, but you can't have 50% deep strike and 25 reserve because the cap for strategic reserves is which is the name for both, the category for both. You can have up to 50%. So 50% can start off the board, over 50% deep strike, or only 25% in reserves. Like I say, it's a little bit tricky to get your head around. That is definitely something to read up on the Warhammer 40k app. But that is the basics of deployment. I hope that video is helpful. If you have any questions, any comments, please drop them into the comment section and I'll try and answer your questions, or if I've made any mistakes, because I may have, I'm only human, please point them out so I can pin a little message on or do a little edit or whatever, just to make sure I'm not misinforming anyone. So please comment below if you have anything you'd like to share.